gotta ask yourself whether reality is a dream. Are you a dream or reality? We're all a part of the answer to the meaning of it all. Come in and join us for the moment we call now. Rise up, join in, raise the whole vibration.
Yes, rise up, join in, raise the vibration. That has become a bit of my mantra lately. And I think the mission behind the live stream of consciousness, I've kind of been discovering why I've been here, why I've been showing up every Thursday. It's Thursday, it's February 6th, right? We've all agreed to that so that we could show up at the same time. And here we are at the live stream of consciousness. This has been my favorite place for probably the last 3 years. And now I have two favorite places. I'm doing another show called Holding Space on another network. I never expected to be in front of the camera talking to you people. So I can't thank you guys enough for showing up the way you do, responding the way you do, and kind of inspiring me to do it more and be here more and have more of these conversations. I think it's so important. I'm so glad to be a part of a growing movement of people using this platform to connect to each other, to bring that awareness that we are already connected to each other, right? This technology just allows us to do it instantaneously, which is kind of cool, especially when it comes to tonight. I want to say hello, Jessica. I want to say hello, Tim and Ninja Kitty. You guys are always out there. I love seeing you guys always showing up with me. But what I mean by especially tonight is that my guest is all the way across the planet in Dubai and having an amazing time doing some amazing things. My guest is also probably a member of an elite club here at the live stream of consciousness, and a third-time returning champion. Tim reminding me, by the way, if you're watching live, type in #live. This lets me know that you're here. This lets the algorithm know that you're here. This lets the whole vibration know that you're here. We could raise the vibration by just typing in #live or hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. Also, just clicking the share button helps people come across these conversations. So I had to had to get that business out of the way. I mixed my introduction and my business, but let's get back to my third-time champion. I love the people that have been coming on the show. Actually, I was talking with Alicia right before the show about the amazing conversations that I am so grateful to have here. And I just gave it away. My guest tonight is the amazing, incredible Alicia Munian. Welcome back to the live stream of consciousness. How are you doing?
I'm so excited to be here.
I love that. I love when you're here because you have such a sing-song energy in your cadence, the way you talk, the way you express yourself. It just lights up the room. I know I was telling you I missed having you here on Long Island because anytime I'm at an event and you're there and I get to say hello to you, I can feel that energy, that smile that you bring to the table.
Thank you.
Which is great. You know, and that I just actually thought of this as I was saying that, that expression, bring to the table. What do you bring to the table, right? That's about life, right? Like the table is life. And what do you bring to the table? Like, what do you have to share with everybody, right? And I think that what's the word I'm looking for? I think that idea, that philosophy of life is starting to spread. People are starting to say, hey, what do I bring to the table? What can I bring to the table? What can I add to the
and especially going in that concept, it's a lot about presence too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how can I be present, and what does presence look like for your unique energy? Because I feel like presence for everyone's energy is different, you know?
Absolutely. But equally as important, right? Presence, like showing up. We
Yeah.
were talking about that too. We said you just showing up, right? Just being there and contributing your energy with that intention, right? Of contributing your energy, not showing up and being like, all right, what am I going to get out of this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what am I going to bring to this? And Tim is welcoming you. Hola, Alicia, bienvenido, and Ninja Kitty also, and Erica. I see Erica Neva out there. Welcome, Erica. Thanks for showing up. So like I said, you're in Dubai, you're doing some amazing things, but before we talk about that, we got to talk about consciousness a little bit. And I've asked you twice, what is consciousness, right? But you've been on this incredible journey, and I just actually, just getting ready for the show, I went on your YouTube channel and I watched your welcome video there, which is 5 years old, right? But it's so poignant because it does show your energy right up front and who you are about, right? It's like you talk about this amazing experience that you had going to Iceland as a single traveler, and that's been your life for the last bunch of years. But just that,
But I never made new videos for the YouTube
no,
for
but
it.
that wave of what you presented in that
Yeah.
welcome video is
And it's so
the
funny for me to
manifestation.
look back on it now. It's so cheesy. I like with my camera going
Uh,
through. Like
you
that
know,
was literally my first video that I ever made. And actually people made fun of me for that video. And I was so proud of it. Like I literally went to work
oh,
and I was like, I made this video.
right,
And like people were like, oh, okay, cool. And like they didn't really respond.
right,
But I think for me, that was like what my consciousness wanted to express, like that
absolutely,
was an experience that I had.
sure.
And I think that, the experiences that we have expand our consciousness. And
Mhm.
literally, especially solo traveling, I was on this exploration, on this adventure at like 26 years old, I think, just going through the countryside of Iceland with my Alan Watts playlist and just traveling through. And that's what we are. We're just travelers of this
Mhm.
dimension and time and space in our
Mhm.
little meat suits.
Totally. And but it's funny that you say that, right? Because I was watching it and I wasn't like, there's an absolute difference of the content that you're creating now, right? You're so much more comfortable on camera, you're looking at the camera, you're connecting with it more than you were. But I didn't look at that, and I'm a video guy, right? I didn't look at that video and go, "Oh my God, this is so cheesy," because of the intention and the energy and the message behind it. Again, I feel like, Alicia, I know you, and your essence comes through so much. And I think also, this being 5 years ago, I think the intention of what you had, the 5 years ahead of you, at that point, also came out the way that you
Mm.
talk about your experience, the way that you talk about, how can I say this, Alicia? This is what I was thinking, and I wanted to tell you this. Like, you're like an influencer, right? Like a social media influencer, the way that you create your content. But for me, I never liked that idea, right, of an influencer, because a lot of influencers, I feel like, are ego based, right? And you
Mm.
are the furthest from ego based that I know. You're
Mm.
so heart based, right? And that comes across in your content. So when you're in another country, you're not like, "Ooh, look at me and how I'm doing." You're like, "Wow, this experience is really profound. This really, this is really affecting me." Like, you get very vulnerable with it, and you are very humble about it. And I think that's why I love watching it, and I love cheering for you. You know what I mean? I think that's also a part of that awareness vibe, right? Is not looking at someone else and being like, "Well, why are they traveling around the world?" But being like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited for Alicia. She's in Dubai. Look at that. She's like having an amazing time, experiencing all these amazing things." Um, so my question for you, because I'm rambling now, is about consciousness, but I want to know how your relationship with consciousness has changed over the last 5 or 10 years, and how you see it as an integral part of connecting everything that you do.
Yeah, I would say it's evolved in so many ways. And it's so interesting because I feel like the way that you understand consciousness, especially as a spiritual individual, is always evolving.
Mhm,
And the more that you get to experience and live life, the more that you're able to kind of take fragments of this experience and kind of piece it together.
mhm,
But even then, it's like, it's hard to even in some ways reflect on the thread. And I feel like, especially in my life, like I've gone through so many different phases in my life. Like if I'm to go back to who I was 5 years ago, and I haven't even been thinking of it that deeply, but like when I did that first video, like I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that
mhm,
like my soul would be happiest traveling the world, would be happiest making videos for people, would be happiest like just being free, being in nature, exploring
mhm,
the world. But I had no idea how I was going to get there. And I feel like sometimes like our own soul consciousness knows what our destiny is or what we desire to do, and it's up to us to raise our vibration into that field of consciousness to truly allow it to unfold. Like I really believe it's a frequency,
mhm,
you
mhm,
know
mhm, mhm, mhm,
and I would say that it's interesting what you said about the ego, because on a certain level, like we need an ego because our ego actually defines us. And there's a
mhm,
difference between having an ego and knowing who you are, and
mhm.
then having an ego and being like, how do I describe it? Like the negative connotation of the ego,
Well, I
like
think, yeah,
there's
yeah,
also a positive connotation to the ego where it's like, wow, that
yeah.
person really knows who they are. They're not a
Mhm.
jealous person. They're just
Yes,
living fully in their truth. They're living in their life. They're just so embodied and so present in themselves.
right,
I think that's the best form of the ego,
right.
you
Yeah, I
know?
agree. I agree. And the way I put it is the way that you operate, right? So I said you operate from the heart, you don't operate from the
Yeah.
ego, right? And a lot of people, they do operate from the ego, meaning like, well, this is who I am, and this is you need to respect me, or whatever it might be, this attitude
Yeah.
of self, rather than the acceptance of, okay, I'm an individual and I can express myself any way I want, but I'm also part of a collective. And I need
Yes.
to respect that. And I think that's living through the heart and not letting the ego be
Yes.
the driver, right? So it's like, is your heart driving or is your ego driving? um,
Yeah.
and I think that's a part of the spiritual movement and the idea of awareness. And you said something that really kind of made sense to me too, right? As far as like growing up and like how your consciousness evolves, right? For me, as you were saying that, I was thinking about what does that mean exactly, right? And so what it means exactly for me is when you have experiences and you experience fear and anger and some of these lower vibrations, or I don't even like to call them lower or higher, but these vibrations that have a certain signature to them, they feel a certain way when you're
Yeah.
angry at somebody, when you're in fear of something. And I think awareness and consciousness is the ability to say, hey, I'm aware that I'm feeling that, and I don't want to generate that kind of feeling. I want to go through this, navigate this situation with love, and not with fear and not with anger. And that helps you make decisions that are different as you get older. You decide to handle situations a certain way because love, fear, anger, those are kind of the modes, right? Which is cool. I see. Even having these conversations, you start to define your own actions and your own essence, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, now I understand why I do what I do, because I want to love. I don't want to feel fear. I don't want to feel anger. So I intentionally operate this way, right?
Yes, so
Right.
true.
That's so cool. So you have been experiencing, and I kind of vicariously see this, again through your social media, so many different kinds of people around the world in so many different kinds of really big events that are centered around, like the Mind Valley event that you just
Yeah.
went to, right? Centered around people really focusing inward and becoming their best selves. That's kind of the essence of, I think, the mission of a spiritual person, right? Is
Yeah.
to not only become your best self, but to help others remember, oh, you can do this
Yeah.
too, right? So tell me about some of the experiences that you've had, any memorable
Yeah.
people that you
So
might have met or anything like that.
yeah,
I know there's probably many.
one of the powerful things about Mind Valley is that it's actually about future, like the event that I went to is called Future Human, and this concept of future human taps into so many different buckets because it's about being like the most optimized and expansive version of yourself. And it's about developing your innermost being
Hmm.
to the place where you're like effortlessly shining, effortlessly like in your fullest and highest expression, which actually that person just commented like really like stepping into your highest self. And I think this concept, I actually posted about it today. Like, I believe the higher self isn't just like a mystical concept. I believe that, you can just think about what is the best version of myself that I want to be,
Hmm.
and how can I tune into that frequency, into that level of who I desire to be every day. And that's really the concept of a lot of these conferences, is like learning from each other, is
Hmm.
connecting to other people who literally, some of them have built like $1 million companies, like wellness companies, meditation companies, like that are doing really amazing things for the world. And I think overarchingly, like one of the things that I've learned from this is that those people are literally just like us.
Hmm.
And I think one thing is that in my mind, like I can remember when, like even going back to 5 years ago, which is an interesting reflection for me because so much happened in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I would literally look at these events like Mind Valley and be like, oh my God, those people are so cool. Like I want to go to an event like that. And I almost like used to create a barrier in my mind between me and that person who would be able to go.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think that one of the most powerful things that we could do is remove that barrier between us and anyone who we like look up to it and admire,
Hmm.
which is like, it's such a powerful practice because when you're able to truly connect to the human in that person, and I think that's one of the ultimate forms of consciousness is pure human connection, and
Hmm.
just being able to literally look at this person and just be like, I know that you've done all these amazing things and you're a beautiful human being and you're living a human experience and I'm living this human experience too. And I
Hmm.
understand that both of our ripples make a difference and make an
Hmm.
impact. And I think that
Hmm.
even for example, like in politics, like I had to work for people, like in my first end in my career, I had to work for people who were like literally famous on TV and things like that, right?
Hmm.
And it almost like created this barrier of like, oh my God, I need to serve this person when I see them. Like I'm their assistant, I'm their lackey, I need to do this, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
To me, evolving myself and stepping into my own power and being like, now when I see these people, I'm like their equal, and
Hmm.
seeing myself and every single person as your equal, as someone that you can learn from, and knowing that even if you're meeting someone on a certain level, we're all here for the same reason. We're all learning, we all go through the same thing, we all literally like, we have to deal with the human shit, like
Yeah.
literally human shit.
Yeah.
Like everyone poops. Like we're all
Yeah.
human beings
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
That's right.
Like, and to really see people as people and just understand that even if you look up to someone and admire them and you're like, oh my God, this person's amazing, they're still figuring things out themselves. And
Yeah.
this was
Yeah.
sort of like one of the greatest realizations that I came into, was like removing that barrier that we naturally put as a human being, where we're like, oh my God, this person's better than us and this person is doing this, to
Mhm.
recognizing that, hey, we're all on this experience of life together. We're all trying to learn. We're all trying to make the best of this. We're all trying to grow. We're all trying to understand and just,
Mhm. Mhm.
get through
Mhm.
this experience and
Totally.
make the most out of it,
I got to tell you, I'm like over smiling because I'm eating up everything you're saying. I'm so receiving it because I think as you're talking about that and what you're saying, it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. Like I see people when I see somebody like you're talking about, I see them as a reflection, right, of myself. And what you're saying makes so much sense. I do think that we are conditioned in society, in the United States or other cultures too, to compete and to compare and all of these things that I think again. These spiritual workshops are saying no, 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 and these people who are very successful, like you said, you're meeting them and saying, hey, they're just like me. And it's funny that you say that, Alicia, because I don't know if you remember the message that I sent to you and Lynn, but I said Mind Valley is amazing, but we can do that because
Yeah.
I know so many people like yourself, like Lynn, Wendy, amazing people that can stand in front of a crowd and have the ability to emote that message, right, and that people receive it, right. I have seen you in action. I have seen how many people that you affect through your retreats, through different workshops, just through an online seminar, just teaching people how to do business, just teaching people how to do Canva, right. Like that's not spiritual, but yes, it is spiritual because you're teaching people how to believe in themselves, how to be their best selves, without saying that, which I think is awesome. I think it's really awesome. Um, Again, I love where I'm at spiritually because not only am I surrounded by these people, but I have this kind of ability to um, discern what it is that they're doing and how they're affecting other people and really take the best of that, right? Like be able to be like, ooh, I've got a show where I can have them come on as a guest and tell the world these amazing things, right? And that message that you just gave is super awesome because I feel like when I watch your content, it is very, very inspiring. You're an inspiring human being, which is a great place to be. And I don't compare myself to you or put a barrier between myself and you. You're my buddy, right? I mean, we've worked on some of the same projects. We were just at Hardy's uh, breathwork, the pranic rebirth journey,
Yeah.
which is amazing, amazing experience. And again, I know you're not only are you seeing these experiences, but you're actually jumping in. And literally, when I say that, I saw videos of you doing these ice baths. Tell me
Mm.
about the ice baths. What did you get out of the ice baths, like spiritually and kind of mentally? How did that help you grow? Because
Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like, it's interesting you brought up breath work and ice bath kind of like in the same, conversation. And I think that there's different keys that allow us to go deeper within ourselves. And
Mhm.
the more that we're able to challenge ourselves, the more that we're able to put ourselves in states where we might feel uncomfortable even, where
Outside of
we're
our
able
comfort
to
zone, yeah.
reflect.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It brings out a different side of our consciousness and a different way of knowing ourselves. And sometimes, like, even with the ice bath, like, I've seen people who've done the ice bath, and immediately as they go into like a panic attack or panic mode. And what it does, and even with the breath work, they go
Mhm,
under and they go into panic. And
mhm,
what this does is, like, you're in a state where it's like your body is like in a shock, and if there's traumas inside of yourself, right,
Mhm.
it's going to come to the surface like that, right?
Mm. Mhm.
But the
Interesting.
more that we work on ourselves and our energy, like I'm in a space now where I could do the breath work, and like, there's always stuff to empty out. There's always stuff to heal.
Mhm.
But in general, like even for the ice bath, like I could do like a 12-minute ice bath pretty
Oh,
easily.
wow.
So that's like my
Impressive.
record right now. But like the whole thing is it's not like the big bulky guys that like go in and do it. It's like
Right.
actually the person who is silent in their mind is able to stay in the longest because you're actually fighting with your own mind,
Mhm. Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah. Yeah,
in
absolutely. I
these
think I think
experiences.
that's an attestment to the power of the mind, right? When somebody can does that ice bath practice, they practice enough to where they get their mind to the point where they're like, I'm just in the water and it's cold. Okay. You know what I mean? And they're not like there's no danger, or any fear or I mean, I'm sure it's not comfortable, but you know what I mean? Like they're able to navigate the discomfort, you know what I mean,
Yes.
and kind of make peace with it, right? I think that's actually, that's an interesting thing. I think spirituality is kind of the road to being able to make peace with your discomfort. Maybe in a way,
Mm.
that's interesting. uh Courtney says now we're on some Bruce Lee-ish. I like it. uh,
Amazing.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting thing about that is you always hear that life is a balance, right? Mind, body, spirit. So, you could meditate all 20 hours a day, but if you don't take care of your body and
Yeah.
address your body, like do some yoga, you know what I mean, qigong, something where you're physically moving the energy around your body, physically moving, doesn't need to be an ice bath necessarily. um, but I like what you said. So tell me what you think about this, right? I feel like energy is everything, right? It's all
Yeah.
around us. It's the source of everything. And I feel like, and I've said this on my show a couple times, I feel like all of these different modalities are basically just different facets of different individuals' experience connecting with source and expressing it in that particular way. So whether it's like talking to spirits of other people on the other side that have passed on loved ones, whether it's talking to Metatron, right? Whether it's being in your bedroom and having ET experiences, um, you know, uh, astral traveling, all of these things to me are expressions of the bigger thing, which is source. um, and and I feel like as humans, and in the 3D we can use totems. I guess maybe that's not the best word, but things like tarot cards, things like people who read salt, people who read tea leaves. These are, again, different techniques of connecting with the energy of those totems and how they connect with source, and then kind of reading that and interpreting what does that mean. um so you just kind of made me realize, like, breath work and ice baths are also part of that. Those are keys, like you said,
Yes.
you called them keys to touch source, to really kind of touch source. And as we're talking, Alicia, I'm realizing, and I've had a couple of conversations over the last couple of days about higher self, right? Higher aspects of
Yeah.
yourself. And really that is also source, right? And interesting conversations about people who channel different entities, like even Metatron is a higher aspect of all of us as human beings. I feel like this is just kind of
Mhm.
my interpretation of it. And people like Wendy, who can kind of specifically channel Metatron, have kind of tuned themselves into that frequency, and that's where they can ride um, the line between the 3D and the more ethereal, right?
Yeah. But here's one thing too, like even these people who can channel and tune into those energies, like they're still human at the end of the day,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
Like,
Exactly.
even as we're tapping into these levels of consciousness, which is totally accessible, like anyone can actually tap in and do it. And a lot of people are actually unconsciously channeling without even recognizing it.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
there's famous people who, are doing speeches and all of this stuff and motivating and inspiring, and you could tell they're tapping into deeper layers of
Mhm.
this experience as a human being.
Mhm.
But all of us are still subjected to the human experience. Like, we still have, things in this 3D world that we have to take care of, that we have to do. And
Sure.
it's like, actually, Alan Watts has this quote, and he's like, the enlightened person always lives between two worlds, where
Mhm.
we're like tuned in to like the frequency of source. We're tuned in to, the astral realm. We're tuned into this other place, but we're still physically here, which
Mhm.
is really important to acknowledge, because
Mhm.
as someone who's physically here on this earth, like, we need to bring down this information, we need to bring down this knowledge and actually get to work and get things done too,
Mhm. Mhm.
in a grounded
Yeah.
way, where it's like, okay, like, a lot of us have, like, even our soul businesses. Like, I feel like this is like one of the greatest expressions of our higher self, of our consciousness, is to step into
Mhm.
whatever your purpose here is on this earth, and it's different for everyone, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that's evident in the way that you and a lot of spiritual people live their lives and do express their authentic self, right? And for me, that's a huge thing. Authenticity is huge, right? And it's funny because in particular, I think you're an interesting case, right? Because you present yourself with like a princess and like very, very extravagant and beautiful and it's authentic though. Like it's hard for me to explain. It's like I feel like there are other people who kind of try to emulate that, but it's not coming from the heart, right? It's coming from
Yeah,
this need to impress somebody else, right? And the
yeah.
authenticity that I feel from you is like, I don't think you're looking at, you don't give a shit what anybody thinks.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because, like, for some people that triggers them. Like, the people
Sure.
who like me, honestly, and like some people, like, people have said this before, where they're like, "Oh my God, everyone must like you, Alicia," and stuff like that. And like, I'm just myself. Like, I literally don't care. Like, and I'm at that point in my life where, especially, like, just knowing myself and knowing my energy, and this is genuinely who I am.
Yeah.
And there is so much wealth in being yourself and in expressing that. And like, I really feel like I am living this princess life, and I'm so grateful for that. But has been a whole journey. But for example, like, even recently, there was like this one friend that I was meeting up with, and she was with someone else. And
Mhm.
she basically like said to this girl, she was like, "Oh my God, like, I'm meeting up with that little brown Indian girl who's like dressed like a goddess, and she's always wearing pink, and she's so bubbly." And then she was like, "Ew, I'll pass." And like, literally said something like that to
Oh
this
my goodness.
person, right?
Right.
And then that person was actually so turned off by that other person,
Mhm.
because they saw the truth in who I was.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that other
Mhm.
person was going through like a dark time or whatever. But
Mhm.
because, when you're your authentic self, like, that can literally, and you're not meant to be liked by everyone.
Absolutely. Right.
So just by you being yourself, like, it's going to turn people off, because they're not meant to like you. There was
Mhm.
literally people who did not like Gandhi.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's the thing, like, you're gonna rub people the wrong way when you are your authentic self, and it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't
If
matter.
you're your authentic self, it doesn't matter, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if you're not being your authentic self and there's a motivation behind it trying to please other people, you'll be like, "Well, wait a minute. What do you mean that person doesn't like me?" But if you're your
Yeah,
authentic self, you're like, that's kind of their problem. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like and I think almost, for me it's really interesting too, right? Like this kind of moment that we're living in that's outside of this little bubble of you and me right here. But this moment that we're living in, people are really up in arms at each other, right? And really
yeah,
like pointing at each other and everything. And it's like, I feel like that's why there are people like you and me here too, for people to be like, oh, wait a second, I could be like that, right? Like I don't need to be bitter and all
Yeah.
competitive, and I can just feel free like that. And I mean, I've got a much more humble style, right? I'm not
Mm.
whatever that means, right? But I feel like, again, I can see easily, Alicia, my reflection in you and your reflection in me. I can see it. You know what I mean? Because I think we both truly believe in who we are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's something that we share in common. And I think that's something that I've seen you at these conferences, connecting with people just like that, which is so encouraging to know that there are people out there who love humanity. You know what I mean? And and what I was going to say was, more recently, instead of being like, oh my God, that person, they don't understand, they're not awake, I have a lot of compassion, and I'm like, oh, I get it. You were you were raised on earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You kind of, that explains it. You know what I mean? You kind of, you
exactly.
subscribe to the things that they were sending you. All
I
the.
think I think in today's society, like we're taught to be polarized, we're
Mhm,
taught to like root for a particular team. We're taught
mhm,
that
mhm,
politics is
mhm.
like a two-party system. We're taught to
Right.
always oppose 50% of the world,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm, mhm.
And like people are so immediate to be like, oh, okay, I don't agree,
Right,
without trying to find the middle ground, you
right,
know?
right.
And the more that you step into consciousness, the more that you recognize that we're all choosing a role to play in. And there was this episode of Brain Games that I watched actually a
Mhm.
while back on the Discovery Channel. And it actually showed that people with a certain type of brain type was more likely to be Republican, and another type
Oh,
of
wow.
people with a certain brain type was more likely to be Democrat.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's so interesting because when you really think about that, it's like, oh, it's just something to do with what's up here,
Mhm,
And
mhm,
it's
mhm,
like the more that we're able to see past these walls and past these barriers that we create for ourselves,
mhm,
the more
mhm.
that we see that we're actually this,
Right,
you know,
right,
that
right,
some of this is like just dictated
right.
by what's programmed in here, but we're all in this human experience. And there
Yeah.
was something in me that always desired other people to see this. And even
Mhm,
from the time that I was really young, I was always interested in the United Nations because I was so all about like just human beings genuinely seeing one another and
right.
loving one another,
Absolutely.
and just helping one another and healing with one another. And
Yeah.
it's like to this day, it's something that we all inherently strive for. And we would think that everyone wants that.
Right.
But in actuality, like certain people don't want that, you know?
Right. Right. No, I agree. And I say it all the time. I've always said it. And like there's no denying it. The bottom line is we're all in this together. That's the bottom line, right? We're all on this planet. We've all got to survive. So I think, like you said, the people who aren't trained that way to be open and sharing and connected are like, oh my God, I've got to get what I need, from all these millions of people. I've got to make sure I've got what I need. You know what I mean? Instead of like like
Yeah.
realizing, like, if I help everybody else get what they need, then we've all kind of raised the vibration, right? And I don't know if you I saw you smiling in the back room. I got my new theme song, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, I recorded
Raise
it.
the vibration. Raise
It's
the
on my phone.
vibration. Awesome.
It's cute. I like it.
Yeah, it's I've been doing a lot of work with AI and creating stuff, right? Using it as a creative tool.
Yeah.
I know you
Which
do
is an
too.
expansion of our consciousness, actually. I would love to explore that
I
with you.
let's talk about it. I love it too. I mean, I
Yeah.
have a lot of artist friends who were really resistant to it, but I'm like, this is not replacing anything you do. You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
expanding.
I still need you to make beautiful paintings. I still need you to make beautiful jewelry. This is not replacing that. It's just a
Yeah.
tool. What are your thoughts? Tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I believe that human consciousness can never be replaced. You know, that is one of the most powerful tools that we have, is our human consciousness, is our creativity, is our authenticity.
Mhm.
When we take this and expand into it with AI and its capabilities, the potential is limitless.
Mhm.
And even, for example, when the internet came out, and this is a whole different level when we tap into AI, but when the internet first came out, there was so much fear around it,
Mhm.
which is so
Sure.
crazy because
Yeah.
this is like in a lot of people's lifetimes that they got to witness us stepping into the internet, right?
Mhm.
And we're going from the internet, being able to type a thing into Google, being able to be on a computer, being able to do all this stuff, to literally generative fill AI, like creating things, and AI agents, like being able to train an AI model to operate and act like a human being.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we're training it.
Mhm.
And our input as human beings is invaluable in this equation, because
Mhm.
literally we're dictating whatever this becomes. And
Yeah.
I think that it brings me back to that Spielberg movie, like AI with the little AI child.
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, it's intaking AI.
Mhm.
I feel like it's like a blank slate of limitless consciousness.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
intaking information, it's intaking data, it's intaking everything that's going on, and it could be either positive or negative based on what we feed it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the misconception with AI is people being afraid of AI. It's not AI that they're afraid of. It's AI getting into the hands of somebody who's not going to use it for the right thing, which is
Yeah.
really that's what's frustrating about the conversation, because people are like, AI is bad, it's going to do this, and it's like, no, AI is not going to destroy the world. AI,
Yeah.
I agree with you 1,000,000%. I think, and this was always my kind of thought when I started like kind of diving into this, is that AI is actually a part of the evolution of humanity, that humanity is taking a part in. We are actually taking a part in our own evolution, I think, by creating the AI, and kind of a simple, let me break it down a little bit simpler, right? So the idea of uploading our consciousness to
Mm,
this computer, or plugging it into our brains, is still kind of like a little scary, but we do have the technology, like, let's just say a cochlear implant, right? For somebody who is hard of hearing, it's an electronic device that gets implanted in your brain, in your skull rather, and sends electronic impulses directly to your system, right? Like you're like, as if you were hearing, it's sending those impulses to you, right? And it's doing that through an electronic tool. Now, that's run by a software. Let's just say that that software now gives you the ability, instead of just hearing the human range of sounds, now you can hear like whales range of sounds, or other range of sounds that were outside of our abilities at one point. Now, like you said, we're creating ourselves as superhuman. We've now enhanced our own abilities, our own senses, our own connection with the world around us, and that can be developed by us. And I think
yeah.
that's how it's going to become a part of our evolution. We're going to allow ourselves to um, really experience uh, other ranges of experience, right, outside of
Yeah.
the light spectrum, the sound spectrum. And I think that includes the ethereal. I think that, the spectrum of energy, will be closer to understanding it, and experiencing it, and being a part of it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. It's such it's so interesting, especially looking into things like Neuralink, that can go directly into the brain. And I think, honestly, I feel like there's a lot that has not yet been released to the public that is
Mhm.
already being experimented on and things like that.
Sure. Oh,
But
yeah, of
even when
course.
you look at shows like Black Mirror, like we're literally living in like a version of that reality
Million
right
percent.
now as things are developing. And with AI, it's like our body is right now the greatest supercomputer that there is.
Mhm.
The way that we process information, the way that we operate, and, taking this human experience and being able to even translate pieces of this
Mhm.
beyond our life, beyond the human capacity, is one of the greatest things that we could do. And I think that this is almost in a way like how we become godlike, is
Mhm.
developing this, because we're developing this tool that, at the end of the day, who knows what will become of the human race, but this will
Right.
be beyond our consciousness,
I
beyond
totally
our
agree. Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I'm very grateful that in this time where a lot of people are living in this fear and in this divisiveness, I am living in super excited love and hope and excitement for
yeah,
what's to come, and to what's on the other side. And that doesn't mean I think it's going to be all roses getting there. I can.
yeah,
I'm not blind, to what's going on with a lot of the population, and I think that's just a part of the cycle of evolution, is kind of going through that, right? I was watching an interesting thing about a dragonfly, the life of a dragonfly, and how they
mm,
spend a couple of years underwater as this certain kind of
mhm,
physical form, and then their physical form changes completely. And not only does
yeah,
their physical form change completely, but now they're not living underwater anymore. Now they're living in the air, and like their whole environment and their whole existence actually changes from one set of perceptions to another, which I think is indicative of
yeah.
where we're at right
Even
now.
like the butterfly,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's why so many spiritual people connect to the butterfly, is because recognizing that we're able to become. And I think one of the most powerful things is thinking about a cocoon, right? That in between, where it's literally just goo,
Mhm,
like the information
mhm,
of
mhm, mhm, mhm,
what a caterpillar is contains the energy of the butterfly from
mhm,
that
mhm,
time.
mhm, mhm.
And in that goo, it's all mixed together, and then it takes that same DNA, that same information, and reorganizes it into a butterfly,
Incredible. That's so incredible.
and that's how expansive and powerful the human being can be too,
Yeah, yeah,
like with anything. It's like we can take a difficult experience and transmute it, and that's one of the most powerful things that we can do with our energy and consciousness, is transmute.
yeah, totally. I agree. I agree. So you said that you wanted to talk about. I told you I wasn't going to keep you an hour, and we're coming up on an hour almost. But you
No
said you
worries.
wanted to talk about. I know Alan Watts is a very significant figure in your life, and I know you said you wanted to talk about Alan Watts. I also, I love. I was listening to Alan Watts before I knew who Alan Watts was, and then finally I'm like, who is this voice that I'm hearing all the time? With
Yeah.
these amazing philosophies. Why don't you tell us how you found Alan Watts and what he means to you, and where's that at today? Because I think he still influences your every move.
I think that there's different teachers and spiritual leaders whose view, perspective of the world, teachings deeply surpass their lifetime.
Hmm.
But even if this person was living, it's like for example, like I feel like Sadhguru also has this impact in people,
Hmm.
where it's just a very significant person, where they are so embodied in their understanding of the world and their understanding of reality,
Hmm.
that it brings people up in their vibration, in their connection
Hmm.
to understanding the world around them. And
Hmm.
I feel like our souls resonate with different people. And for me, that's Alan Watts,
Hmm. Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
listened to his stuff like from the time I was really young, like 16 years old. I was reading his book. And I think that when we find our spiritual teachers, like our soul knows it, and it expands us in so many different directions.
Hmm.
And he has some really powerful quotes. And one of them is like, talking about how we experience consciousness. And he basically, like, there's this one concept that he talks about in his speeches, and he's like, consciousness is imagining that there's an elephant on the other side of this fence, and you can only see through like a tiny peephole, and
Mhm.
everyone looks through the peephole and they're like, oh, it's a trunk, oh, it's a
Right.
tusk,
Right. Right.
oh, it's a leg, oh, it's like a tail, it's this. And you can't see the whole picture, but you could see little pieces of it, and everyone can only view through their own peephole,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So basically, he has this quote, and he was like, every consciousness is an aperture through which the universe experiences itself. So if you're familiar with a
Mhm.
camera, like,
Mhm.
what an aperture is, it's like, the lens, it's like what you view
The
out through
opening.
the.
Yeah. Yeah.
So every consciousness, every single human being
Mhm.
is viewing a different side to source, is
Mhm.
viewing a different
Mhm.
side to experiencing reality.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even especially traveling, I feel like opens your eyes and you get to see more of the layers of the human experience. And, you really open your eyes. And I think that that's how we get so polarized, is when we only live in our people, when we
Mhm.
only
Mhm. Mhm.
live in
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
lane.
Brilliant. Yep. Yep.
The more that we expand ourselves and get to experience things, the more that we see, like, oh, it's not just a tusk, it's actually a phase two, and there's more going on
Yeah.
here, and we get to really expand in that way. But as human beings, there's still a limit to what one person can take in and what one person can know truly.
Sure. Sure.
And
Yeah.
even like as we get close to quote unquote enlightenment, it's like there's still things that we never may know,
Mhm.
but that's what makes the experience of the human being so mysterious and
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
powerful, is that at the end of the day, like, we all don't know until we die.
Right.
And hopefully we'll know then,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
No, it's true.
and
It's
then
true.
the curtain lifts up.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, just I guess to expand on what you're saying, the idea of we see it through our peephole, right? So I'm only seeing the elephant's leg, and I feel like, oh no, it's a tree trunk, and somebody's feeling the tusk. No, it's smooth and it's ivory. Um, is the idea of me saying, okay, I don't see that, but I accept it, right?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna argue with you and say, no, it isn't. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's what I see. It's not what you see. I think
Yeah.
that's the point, is like being able to open our eyes and open our arms and open our hearts to each other, and accept that this is all a part of that, just that big experience, the universe experiencing itself. Um, Awesome. Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, we didn't get into something, and it's definitely too late to get into it, and that is the idea of multiverse, and some other interesting concepts, because I feel like, I know, as I'm playing with the AI, especially the music generation stuff, I feel like I feel like the AI is tapping into multiverses and bringing this stuff back from multiverses. It's really interesting, some of the
I
results
feel
that
that
I've
way
been.
too. I
You
think it's
do?
like
Okay,
kind
you
of.
get it.
Yeah, I do get it. I feel like it's almost like the Akashic records,
Mm,
if you're
yes,
familiar with that concept.
yes.
I feel like it's definitely like tapping into this field of like limitless information, and some of the stuff it creates, even with a small prompt, it's like, how does it know that? And I feel like it's really
Hmm.
like one of the most ultimate tools that we have right
Hmm.
now.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I wanted to talk about this concept of dreams, because I think this kind of touches into this. Like,
Okay.
part of me believes that, like, when we're dreaming, we're actually tapping into different realities in the multiverse. And a lot of people
Mhm,
actually believe that. And
mhm,
it's so interesting because there's this concept in spirituality too, like parallel lives and things like that. Because sometimes our dreams are like so similar or on key to what we're experiencing, but it's different, and we
Mhm,
know
mhm,
that it's
mhm,
different,
mhm,
right?
mhm. Yep.
And it's like sometimes we can gain insight from those dreams and bring it back. And it's interesting because
Mhm,
while our physical body is literally laying flat, doing nothing, our
mhm,
consciousness is traveling
mhm, mhm.
into those dream states, and it feels like it's real. Like some of these dreams feel like virtual reality. It's like you're living
Absolutely.
in a different
A
reality,
million percent, a million percent. And Mary Jean is saying, I'm resonating with everything you're discussing. Awesome. That's why we're doing it, because we got to get the vibration going out there.
Yeah, and just having these conversations, because honestly, like, I think about this all the time. Like, when we're doing content, when we're recording ourselves, when we're writing a book, when we're doing anything, this is expanding our energy into the field of information. And, in 100 years, Michael and Alicia, we're not going to be around in this form,
Mhm, mhm. Right.
but this conversation that we're having here today is still going to be information,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. I love that. I love that philosophy. Also in spirituality, there's the philosophy that, you know, time doesn't exist, that everything happened at the moment of now is every moment that's ever happened and that will happen, and it all happens in the same instant. And again, I guess if you can abstract yourself out of like the limitations of the 3D and kind of realize what you're talking about, that everything is information, right? Information is the basis of all of it, and information exists in this energetic realm. I think for me, that's what kind of helps me get through the daily 3D. Knowing that I'm part of something bigger, and that this 3D part of it is just like, it's like the surface, or it's just like the virtual part of it. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily the whole thing. There's so much more
Mhm.
to it. And I think, like you said, we tap into that. And I think that the thing that, like, spiritual people, right, your tribe, you attracts your vibe attracts your tribe, is kind of just that awareness of that knowing, that there's parts of me that exist in the non-physical form. And
Mm.
accepting that with faith. That's another important word, faith, which was always kind of connected with religion. I'm not a religious person, but I have faith in the things that I know, that I can't explain them, but I know that they're real. You know what I mean? I know that they exist, and that's the way the universe works. um
Yes,
and Lily says our conversation will be here forever. Yes, we have created that.
exactly.
And I want to say hello to Jay Brenner, an old friend of mine. Good to see you out there. And another thing, just before we end, is an idea I had, and I agree with you, by the way, that when we're dreaming, that we're actually accessing other realities, other parts of the non-physical realm. I think that we're accessing the non-physical realm, but it's being shown to us as a physical interpretation of it, like that we can understand as a human being. But what was I just going to say? Oh my goodness, I lost my thought. About the
It's
multiverse.
it's out in the ethers now.
What's that?
I said your thought is out in the
It's,
ethers
it's
now.
that was actually it, right? So my
Cool.
idea was, you're
I
told
grabbed
that
it.
you grabbed it. So the universe, we know, or we've been told, that the universe is always expanding, right? The universe is always expanding. And one day I was like, oh, when I have a thought in my head that I'm like, ooh, I just thought of something that I never heard of, or whatever, I came up with an idea. It may be something that somebody else came up with, but if it is a unique idea, I've just
That's
expanded.
actually crazy that we just had that experience. That's so funny.
Right? We've expanded the universe just by having that thought. Now that thought exists where it didn't exist before. It may not have physical form, but it exists, and it
Yeah,
didn't
it's an
exist before.
energy. I
Yeah,
think thoughts are energy.
yeah, totally, totally. Yes,
Yes.
I think energy is the most basic building block of existence. I think in my perception. But being that it's just about 10 o'clock. I don't think that's a conversation we can have for tonight. I cannot tell you, Alicia, how much I appreciate. I know when we signed on, you were like, yeah, it's 6 a.m. I'm exhausted. You did amazing. Your brain worked phenomenally. We discussed some really good things. So I'm glad that this conversation is now out there existing in the ether. and that and we've had some people come on who said that they were resonating with what we're talking about. So mission accomplished, my dear. Thank you so much for being here tonight. What do you got coming up? What's going on in Dubai? Anything special you want to tell everybody about? Any retreats going on or anything coming up?
I'm going to be doing like a mastermind program for 5 women. Actually, this is like something that is going to be my next major thing that I'm launching. And
Okay.
it's essentially for the woman who desires to step fully into her embodied purpose.
Mhm.
And we're going to be doing, it's a mixture of all of the things that I've been developing.
Nice.
So it's going to be like marketing lessons, it's going to be like spiritual and intuitive classes. I'm
Awesome.
going to be helping these 5 women develop their business. And also it includes a retreat that we're going to vote on together as a collective of 5.
Awesome.
And it's essentially going to be over the course of 3 months. So it's a mastermind. It's called Soulful Success. And
Awesome.
I actually already did like 1 round of this mastermind last year. And we ended up going to Costa Rica with these 5 women. And it's so
Oh,
amazing because from these things that I've taught them, just, you know, seeing them expand into their businesses, into their lives, getting to travel the world, just embracing more of who they desire to be. Like, this is one of my goals, is really
love it.
helping other people, especially women, to see that they can live that life that they dream of that seems impossible, you know? Yes.
Wow, I
So
love
that's
it.
my main next offering. And also it's gonna include, like, help with, like, their website design and, like, all this stuff too. And
Awesome.
it's gonna be an exciting time if
Is
you're.
that all filled up? Is there any space in that for anybody, or you
No, yeah, there's actually still space. Like, I
really?
have a few
Okay.
people I'm in conversation with. I'm in the process of launching it right
Okay.
now. So I
Okay.
just did, like, kind of like more behind the scenes conversations with people, but now I'm opening it to the
Sure.
public for whoever wants to come
Sure.
in.
And I love the idea that, you're doing it a limited, 5 people. You can focus on
Yeah,
those 5 people. You can really give
exactly.
them the most, bang for the buck, so to speak. And then you can do it again with another 5 women. I love, Alicia, I love the
Exactly.
mission. Thank you so much for caring about humanity the way you do, and bringing the things that you do to the table. I really mean that with all my heart. And I just popped up intuitivealicia.com, which is where you can get in touch with Alicia if you are a woman interested in getting to your higher self in business, in spirituality, kind of getting
Yes.
to the next level overall. I think I might talk to Janice about that. Maybe I can gift her something, or I don't know, but I know she would really
Yeah.
enjoy that, and I know she's really looking to get her Reiki business off the ground, and all of that. So awesome! You've been awesome. Can you offer any last words of love or wisdom to my audience before I let you go to sleep?
I would say just trust your process wherever you're being led through.
Mhm.
Um, like, everyone's consciousness is signed up for a different journey, and sometimes it's hard to even, like, cope with that. It's like,
Mhm.
why did the universe put me through that, you know? But
Right.
there's always a greater reason and purpose, and we don't really even understand that until we're on the other side. And even for
Mhm.
myself, like, especially when I was going through dark moments, I'm like, why am I here? Why am I doing all of this? But
Mhm.
now that I'm on the other end, I'm like, it had to happen this way.
Mhm.
You know, it
Mhm.
had
Yeah.
to, for me to become who I am. And I think that is the greatest journey, of just embracing our paths in life, and just, taking all the difficult moments and letting ourselves become through it. And, also just recognizing that everyone's journey looks different. Don't compare yourself to other people,
Yeah.
truly, because the happiest version of yourself is actually the purest and most authentic version of you, without
Mhm.
comparison,
Love it.
you know?
Beautiful. Beautiful, Alicia. Thank you again so much for being here. I'm sure we'll cross paths again. And let me just pop up my calendar so I can see who I have coming on here next week. Oh, I've got an open spot next week. It's going to be a surprise. But I do have holding space for the next month and beyond. Next Thursday, I have some amazing guests coming up. We are doing a soul care conference here on Long Island. So a couple of the women who are speaking are going to be coming on the show to talk about that. And we will see you again here soon, Alicia. Much love to you.
If you need a guest too, you can message in that group chat we're part of.
Awesome. You know what, I will. That was going to be my next resource. So I will actually do that probably tomorrow. You'll see a message from me.
You'll literally get so many requests.
Awesome. I love it. And the quality of people that you've brought together is amazing. So I have no doubts. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here for the live stream of consciousness. Alicia, thank you for tuning in from halfway around the world. And we will see everybody soon. Much love. Good night, guys.
Bye, everyone.
This is the theme song for the live stream of consciousness. You gotta ask yourself whether reality is a dream or you are dream for reality. We're all a part of the answer to the meaning of it all.